Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Money and Me podcast, where we empower you in the blockchain era. I'm your host, Varuni Trivedi, and I'm back with yet another important, interesting, and super exciting guest on the Coin Republic's podcast, and that is Herman from Somnia Network. And they're quite new in the space. Well, not quite new because every year counts like almost a decade in the Web3 space. But but I'm sure Herman's had his fair share of a roller coaster ride in the space. So we'd love to know more about you, Herman, and about Somnia Network. If you could please tell us. So the
Sure.
mic's
Hi.
yours.
So I'm Herman Narula. I'm CEO of Improbable, which is a virtual worlds and actually beyond that now, as we'll discuss with Somnia, crypto and technology venture builder based in the UK. We're probably best known for creating not just Somnia but M Squared, the virtual world platform that can support thousands of users that powers everything from Major League Baseball's events over the last year to Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, other side Metaverse, and now countless more besides. And our vision has always been, how do we build the infrastructure to support what we think of as the new economy? I wrote a book about this, Virtual Society. And after a little while of years of building kind of the virtual world and sort of experiential end of this, we realized the crypto side just wasn't keeping up in terms of performance, scale, trustworthiness. And that led us to work on Somnia, which is the first million transaction a second Ethereum based chain, which is now in testnet, about to hit a billion transactions, I think today or tomorrow, which we're very excited about. And so, yeah, we're launching later this year into mainnet, and we've already got quite a vibrant community of games and projects.
Wow, so right before mainnet, and you're already, I think, pretty thriving as a network. There are quite a few topics about Somnia Network that I feel are really interesting. And the first one has to be your tweet that you posted recently, I think in June beginning, about that being an operating system. And that, I think, was a keyword that got not just mine, but a lot of attention from the user base itself. If you can tell us why you've compared Somnia with an operating system, and how does it stand out as a unique blockchain? We know that there are a number of blockchains in this space, but why should one choose Somnia as their go-to?
Sure. So, I mean, I'll start maybe with the typical way in which a blockchain might promote itself as being more valuable to users. Then I'll explain maybe why I don't think that's the best way and why I use this operating system term. So, typically people will talk about technology, and with Somnia, we would say things like, "Hey, we have sub-second block times, and a million transactions a second, not only in parallel." But actually, when things really hit the fan, which most blockchains don't think about, when you have everyone trying to mint the same NFT or whatever, Somnia actually can handle, something like 50,000 Uniswaps a second, right? Running at any one moment in time on the same, key value pair. The benchmarks, the data, and all of the public testing we've done really, for any computer scientist listening or looking out there, blows away every other chain out there. Even things like Mega ETH, which is an L2, not even an L1 running on Ethereum, we absolutely crush their benchmarks, including their end-to-end latency. Monad is, I think, something like 10,000 times slower than Somnia at the moment in testnet. And to an example of why that's good, well, we were able to build a game called Chunked. Again, this is our gaming heritage as a company, which was basically Minecraft, but running on chain completely and totally in real time, where just you connect with the browser, no backend server. And over a weekend, 70,000 people mined every single block. I mean, they cut down every tree. They totally swarmed the world, and it really showed us how powerful it could be to have a community in one place. But more than that, Somnia doesn't actually require the same kind of centralization as something like Solana. So Somnia requires less node sizes and memory requirements than Solana, while being pretty much as decentralized as the most decentralized chains of this type. This year, we're going to have over 100 validators. And finally, I would say in terms of reputation and reliability, what I look for in crypto is, are the people who are building infrastructure, do they have something to lose if this goes wrong, if they rug it or whatever? Improbable is a multi-billion-dollar company with a decade-long reputation. We're all using our real names. We're all here. We're all super legally compliant. We've run defense businesses. And our goal here is to build something for companies. But that said, right, that isn't how I would pitch a chain. And I think the reason I wouldn't is because I don't think block space is the main problem being faced by crypto today. The problem is real applications people actually want to use. And the reality is that in order to do that, you have to build companies and you have to be able to find and work with great entrepreneurs to solve real problems. And with Somnia, we've built an entire venture builder at Improbable, where we're investing in and announcing actually quite soon a pretty exciting company that we're not just putting money into, but using our decades of experience as entrepreneurs to co-create real businesses. Often businesses where the crypto part is hidden. It's not in people's faces. It's not crypto for the sake of crypto. It's crypto solving real problems for folks. Gaming, of course, is a huge area. We just announced a number of titles. Sparkball actually, a day before, moved over from Monad to Somnia, which was quite cool to see. And a number of other titles are making similar jumps now from other chains. But I think more than that, real world tokenization, I'm really passionate about. My own family background comes from things like energy and infrastructure, where I feel tokenization is really important. But beyond that, I think even internet capital markets. Like one day, I would love Improbable not to IPO, but to tokenize itself onto Somnia. That would be really, really cool.
Wow, what a vision! What a vision, I must say. And quite a few things that you said fit perfectly. But one, I think, more than most, which was that real applications are still missing. I think most of the founders are still struggling to find that market fit for their product. Where you have, of course, come up with a great plan where you're also building a venture capital firm, where you'll be, I think, getting in touch with entrepreneurs, working closely with them, and understanding what people truly want. When we talk about people, and you've said this word quite a few times, which is communities. How did you guys manage to build this Somnia network communities? You said about 100 nodes would be running, validators would be running soon. So
Yeah, and also the numbers are really staggering. I think we're millions of monthly users that are genuine, like non-bot users engaging with Somnia, and in parts of the world I would never have imagined. We have a serious Nigeria community, we have a Turkish community, we have a Korean community, we have you know I get emails and messages from folks from all over, and it's really exciting. I mean, I think part of why is that we've made engaging with the community and giving them rewards, and I don't just mean monetary rewards, I mean like time with us, interacting with us, maybe the fundamental priority of what we're doing. Like, we don't see our community as like exit liquidity. We see our community as the people who are there to champion the chain, the vision, and what we're doing. The other thing that we've done is created a lot of open source projects that directly help the community. So people say, oh, hey, build a blockchain company, but actually as a programmer, that isn't so easy. The blockchain doesn't do a lot, right? Even something simple like querying, or subscribing to a data update or a poll or dealing with an oracle. So we've made projects like Etherbase, which is an open source library on top of Somnia that would work with other blockchains too. But it makes building real time applications really easy, really possible. And that's when we say operating system, what we mean. Like if I just gave you Windows and there was no interface, there's just memory, right? There's no mouse, there's no keyboard, there's no DirectX, there's nothing. What can you do with that, right? So it taking a realistic view on where this goes. We funded Somnia now like ourselves, and we have the funding to do it for like a decade. And the reason for that is because we really believe companies that rely upon token sales in order to be able to power their business, they're creating the wrong relationship with their customers.
absolutely. I think these are small gimmicks that you throw away in the market for short term retention. But to play the long term game, you have to be in it, like knee deep into this game. And I feel that you guys at Somnia are, in fact, knee deep into the game, working and collaborating with entrepreneurs, which is, of course, key in the Web3 market. If you can talk about a few interesting projects that are
Oh,
being built in Somnia Network, I'd love
absolutely.
to know
I
more
mean,
about
there's over 60, there's more than 60 projects now. I mean, there are exchanges, there are totally new ways of, I mean, one of my favorite projects right now, I'm not going to announce the name just yet because we're going to be announcing our investment in them as well, separately as Improbable. But this is a company that is working on, well, has solved the problem of letting millions of fans around the world buy tickets for their favorite artists without scalpers and in a way that creates a relationship between the artist and the fan. And the cool part is that, in using the network, the NFTs and things, they show up directly in your Apple Wallet. No MetaMask, none of that. Directly connected in, and artists love it and fans love it. For me, that's the ideal business. Crypto should be like a sewage system, right? In a city, you need a sewage system. Everybody wants a sewage system, but nobody should have to walk through the sewage system, right? Like that isn't a good thing for users. So companies like that are very exciting to me. Games wise, not only are they things like new types of card collectible games, but also genuinely interesting, highly visual, fun experiences that feel like games you would buy and play on Steam, not just like crypto coin farming kind of experiences. Which is exciting. But we're working on everything from prediction markets to new ways in which AI agents can interact. There's a company will soon, I think we've announced this one already, which is Automato. That is they're very new, but I really love what they're doing. They're a group of guys working on an automation system for agents to interact directly with a blockchain. And again, these are businesses that the skill set at Improbable, which is so far beyond just crypto, into building deep tech companies. These are the things that we're able to like say yes to that maybe other blockchains, who are just focused on the crypto side, maybe are not able to.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you rightly said that the comparison between a sewage system and the way crypto is being used is intense. I remember for about the last 3 to 4 years, I've had guests on my podcast, and all of us have talked about the use cases of NFTs, how they can be put to better use, are they dead or not? And now finally that I'm hearing a company do this, and we've been talking about NFTs used as ticketing systems, how can they be made more fun? And I hear that a company is finally doing it, makes me super happy, because this is one use case that I've been talking about for a lot longer than people can imagine, and it's finally being put to use in the market. Also, crypto communities are rather fun, so I mean, it's a low hanging fruit. Gamers, NFT minters, yeah.
100%. But also gaming in general. Like, I mean, I talk a lot about this in my book, but also in the analysis and work we've been doing. The Improbable founding team has been around a while, right? And so we get to meet with and give advice to and sometimes receive advice from some amazing entrepreneurs. And what we realized is the games industry, in particular, and entertainment in general, has become hyper saturated with content. If
Yes.
you make a new MMO or online game right now, it will cost you over $40 a user just to get one person to play your game for free, right? In
Mm.
advertising. So the idea that crypto, if it's used wisely and if it's used by experienced developers working together, can be used to reduce the cost of customer acquisition, increase the loyalty that people have. And also, frankly, as a gamer, I'm so sick of spending a ton of money on a game and then all of my stuff, gets taken away. There's a very famous example of I'm not going to say the name exactly, but in Dubai, a famous royal who bought a sword in World of Warcraft for £100,000, and then his account got banned. Can you imagine? Like you spent 100 grand on a sword, and your account got banned because you're not allowed to trade items. As a gamer, this is just ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
So
it's quite
I think we're going
frustrating.
to see we're going to see a new wave of companies like the Supercell of crypto, the EA of crypto, the Activision of crypto. And my job is not so much to make loads of money at the layer one level. The layer one should be a service provider that is
Right.
incredibly well used with a valuable token, but also to enable those businesses. Those businesses are what will make the token valuable, not the other way around.
Absolutely. This is quite an interesting vision. I will come back to it later. But before that, when we talk about communities, we have to talk about social media. Part of a very huge chunk of the social media, or the lives that we have on social media, are completely centralized. On the contrary, blockchain sort of stands on the pillars of decentralization. Now, how does the vision of a decentralized social media, or what we call social fi, ties in with the social media generation, or the social medias that we have now? Do you think it's
So look,
scalable, social
yeah,
fi?
so first of all, in terms of technology scalability, yeah, at a million
Mhm.
TPS, Twitter is 60,000 messages a second. So Somnia could handle multiple Twitters plus a Visa plus a Mastercard plus a couple of games and still have that left over. But I don't think that's the operative question, and I think you're asking a deeper question, right? Which is also why decentralized social media has been tried. Blue Sky, I think, is an example of a semi-decentralized. But for us, it's an idea that's very close to our heart. You may not know this. I think maybe many of the people listening may not know this, but myself and Peter Lipka, the co-founders of Improbable, we're two of only 200 people that are individually sanctioned by the Russian government. So if you go on the website of the Russian government, it says that we are not allowed to travel to Russia or to any of the allies pretty much forever, because we had a defense business that worked on simulating the effect of actions taken in war that were relevant to Ukraine and to other places and things I can't go into. But one of the things that taught me is how powerful social media is in shaping not only public opinion, but as a tool of war, right? Social media companies are in a sense military tools. And you see this now with Mark Zuckerberg partnering with Palantir, but of course with Elon Musk's, however you feel about him, his many antics, out there. So if we don't move towards decentralized social media, then governments, especially non-US governments, are not going to have control over the relationship between information and truth, right? That they have on that level. So I'm a huge believer in it. I don't think it's an easy problem to solve, but hopefully as we open up with more operating system components on top of Somnia over the next 2 years, because even launching on mainnet is not the end. We're adding so many core features, that I can't go into now, but things that will make building that easier. I'm hoping to fund and back social media applications on top of Somnia.
Absolutely. While we talk about all of this, I think one key sort of roadblock that remains between onboarding the next million or billion users that every other entrepreneur in the Web3 space talks about is ease of usability. And I
100%.
think most entrepreneurs sort of miss that bullseye, which would lead to more sort of adoption or adoptability. How do you guys at Somnia or the businesses that you're collaborating with aim to
So
do that?
I think that ease of usability problem is twofold. One is for users, of course, right? Because my grandmother is never going to be able to figure out how to move money from Polygon to God knows where to God knows where. I mean, I barely can. I have a computer science degree, and it's hard enough for me, right? But the other issue is for developers. The point of the blockchain is that I can access information from one company in another company in a way that creates 2 plus 2 is 5, right? But if
Right.
you fragment all of that into L2s and L3s and L0s and all of this crap, it's just not going to work. So I think a more powerful core blockchain is actually really, really important to simplify UX because all the information is in one place. All the assets, all the value are in one place. Now, of course, you need bridging. Of course, you need different forms of value sharing but beyond chains. But you need to minimize the number of times that happens with the user. So our approach is A, to make sure that the core chain has a ton of stuff already integrated inside it. One of our plans is potentially to bring oracles directly into the chain so that even things like accessing external information is really easy. But down the road, the other thing that we're looking to do is make sure that as much as possible, the UX is embedded inside the application experience. I
Mhm.
don't want you to actually, to be honest, I think wallets are terrible. I don't want people to interact with wallets. I don't want people to have to think about this stuff. The company I mentioned that's working on the music ticket side, they've solved this by really just eliminating that flow completely, right? It's all
Mm.
implicit. And I think for power users that want to like export their coins or their NFTs to a wallet, great, give them that option. But right now, really, I think it's been a problem exacerbated by the fact that most people building crypto technology are crypto people doing it for other crypto people, right? They're not really focused on the ordinary person.
Absolutely. And we do feel that SocialFi and Web3 gaming can sort of bridge that gap that people have between.
100%. And they relate to each other, right? The biggest social networks in the future are going to be social networks inside virtual worlds.
Yeah, because I feel gamers also understand ownership. Digital ownership was something that gamers understood way before any of the Web3 crypto people did. So that definitely ties in with the
100%.
ownership that we have in the crypto space. That being said, when would we see GTA 6 or Fortnite like communities in Web3? Because for now, not many.
So gaming is quite weird in that it's a little bit like the way revolutions happen, right? Powder, like dry powder builds up and something is possible, but it takes a specific
Right.
experience or thing to catalyze it. A really good example of this is remember Pokemon Go when it went completely crazy? It could have happened the year before that, the year before that, the year before that, but nobody believed that AR gaming could work until one game happened to catalyze it, right? Similarly, with when we were building Improbable, people told us no one will ever play a first-person shooter on mobile. It'll never happen. It's never going to happen. In that month, a game called Knives Out by NetEase, one of our investors in China, hit 100 million users in like 2 months, and it was an FPS running on a phone. So, I think with crypto gaming, we're just lacking that one title, and by focusing much more on the quality and caliber of developers that we bring on board, and by also be having a gaming heritage, I think we have a high probability of making that happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we talk about metaverse, and usually metaverse and NFTs are tied in quite closely as a tech. However, I've seen a lot of reportage on your traditional news media platforms which say metaverse is dead, NFTs are dead. NFTs not quite quite so much, but I feel the metaverse isn't gaining the same kind of hype that NFTs or Web3 gaming are. What are your thoughts on the metaverse at large, and
So
where do
look,
you think
right,
the future
right
is?
now at this minute in time, as I speak to you, there are 500 million people today that are going to enter Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft. They're
Hmm.
going to make content for their friends. They're going to socialize. Many of them are going to earn money. So if the
Right.
metaverse is dead, like, that sounds pretty good to me. Like that 500 million people is a reasonable fraction of all humans on Earth, right? So,
Absolutely.
I think that when we say the metaverse is dead, probably what journalists mean, and rightly so, is they look at Decentraland, they look at Sandbox, and they think the
Mm-hmm.
numbers aren't really here, right? I mean, there were more people inside our chunked experiment, that Minecraft experiment, than in all of those other metaverses,
Wow.
the decentralized ones put together, not the big ones, but the smaller ones. It's just a function of content. People are
Mm-hmm.
hungry for fulfillment. They're hungry for the fundamental new experiences that drive their lives, especially in countries where, you can't go to the sports match. You can't necessarily meet your favorite star. So I believe that, really this is again just a function of good experiences and good content. VR in particular has just taken a lot longer. And I don't see VR as being, to be honest, that essential to the metaverse experience. I think it'll be a huge add-on, but I don't think it's essential. And so, I'm kind of glad people are saying the metaverse is dead, because it creates so much more opportunity for us with much less competition to keep driving forward.
Absolutely. But now a lot of companies like, Metaverse, Microsoft, Meta, Google, Apple, and quite a few retail firms as well are deviating their interest towards Metaverse. What could be their end goal with the Metaverse? Or is this something that you feel is just a short term hype that they're trying to capitalize on?
I think it's part of a larger, and this is why we're very interested in why we're on the journey with Somnia. It's part of a larger fundamental psychological understanding of the user,
Uh-huh.
right? I think we went from a world where it was about consumption. People are buying things; they need things to be happy. I talk a lot about this in my book. To one where it was about attention. We're gonna make people we're gonna buy people's attention with shiny things, and then we're gonna sell them more products to consume with advertising, right? Which we all know the problems and the bad things. But
Of
the
course.
ultimate end game is fulfillment. Self-determination theory is a branch of psychology 30 years old, and it tells us that you and I, every day we want to wake up, we want to do something that makes us feel like we're improving in our lives, competition. We
Hmm.
want to feel like we're connecting more deeply with other people, and we want to
Hmm.
feel like we're making meaningful choices. Those experiences are limitless in their demand and in their value. And I think brands and companies are realizing that they need to go away from just getting your attention to actually
Hmm.
giving you experiences that are fulfilling. And really, the only way to do that online is with virtual worlds.
Absolutely. If you can talk a little bit more about Virtual Society, the game, and what sort of standards has it been built on?
Oh, so Virtual Society is my book about the metaverse,
Sorry,
but M squared, you might mean, is our virtual network.
right, the virtual network.
So we've done over 1,000 public events over the last year. We broke the world record for the most number of people in an FPS. The technology behind it allows, so typically in a game like Call of Duty or Fortnite, you can have
Right.
100 people interact. Those 100 people will produce, 10,000, 20,000 messages a second, which allow the world to work. Our technology
Mm-hmm.
allows 20 billion messages a second. So we're able to handle, closer to 20,000 people in a single dense location, all interacting, all talking at the same time, all working together. We've tried to build as much as possible on open source standards as well. So we've
Mm-hmm.
made a language called Metaverse Markup Language, which is a little bit like HTML, but for the metaverse. And it's already being adopted even by some of our competitors, which is a really encouraging sign. And for
Mm-hmm.
Somnia, we're going to be using MML as much as we can. The Somnia Playground right now that people can play with
Right.
lets you build avatars and characters all within the Metaverse markup language. You just use JavaScript or an
Mm-hmm.
AI, and it can make whatever you want.
Interesting. So with Somnia, with M Squared, what do you think is the current roadmap looking like? I think it's in quite a bit of starter phase right now, but
Oh,
where?
we're very close to mainnet. I can't say how close, but we will probably beat the market every other alt EVM on EVM chain,
Mhm.
which is funny because we started 2 years after them. So that gives you an idea of the execution speed of Improbable and of Somnia, which we're very proud of. For M squared, the technology is improving every day. Now I think mobile is a very big focus for us. And also we're doing some pretty amazing deals with larger IPs that we'll hopefully be able to talk about soon.
Interesting. Also, talking about your book, Virtual Society, if I'm not wrong, you wrote that before M Squared, before Somnia Network,
It
right?
was just around the time M Squared was launching, but it was after a lot of the time in Improbable, but before Somnia. And actually, the book kind of predicts Somnia in some ways because
Yeah.
I was trying to get to the heart of what it is that makes the metaverse actually matter and valuable. And I think what I found surprising talking to researchers as I wrote the book is this isn't a new thing. We've been building other worlds for like literally 4 or 5 thousand years. The first monument ever made by mankind happened, of scale, happened before agriculture, right? Before we even had farming. And there's pictures and depictions of other worlds and other realities. So I think for me, when I was growing up, my parents were always like, gaming, it's just going to distract you from work or what we do. I actually think, other worlds, other realities, these are probably the most important product of the human mind. And probably in a world where AI is doing all the work anyway, this is where we need to think about expanding the scope of our lives and what they could mean.
Absolutely. I read that quote about where someone says that let AI do my laundry and all my boring
Yes.
tasks so that I can focus on all the things that are important in life, the things that give me joy. So that does make a lot of sense. Focus more on things that give you joy. But this
Completely.
conversation has been quite insightful, Herman, and you've given us a good, I think, detail into all your projects, especially Somnia Network, and a bit of insight into your vision, mission. But as we reach towards the end, I would love to hear a little bit more about the longer vision, the mission of the firm, and how it aligns with the larger market.
Completely. Look, my goal is to build decentralized infrastructure, not like crypto style old school, doesn't work for everyone, but I mean mainstream,
Yeah.
national scale infrastructure to build basically a digital nation. We want the virtual worlds and companies that we enable to be sovereign, and for the people who are making money in them, creating relationships in them, to have that ownership and to have that ability and to unlock experiences for people around the world who could otherwise never have them. That for me, I think, is a worthy goal, and one that we sorely need now in a world where ever more power is getting into the hands of 2 or 3 companies that don't have our best interest at heart. Maybe what we can do working with our community here is build something better, right? Build an alternative to that network and to that world.
Absolutely, that's a great vision. And on this optimistic note, I would feel that I'd just have one last question, which would be about your entrepreneurial journey,
Sure.
how it has been, how it has shaped you as a person, and if you have any key pieces of advice for so many other entrepreneurs in this space,
Sure.
especially in a space like Web3.
The first is, if you're an entrepreneur in Web3, you have a cool idea and you want to collaborate with a company, come talk to us. We're investing right now, we're investing millions of dollars a year, and we work very differently from other funds. A lot of times now as an entrepreneur, you're being invested in by a VC because it's become kind of like McDonald's. The VC themselves has never started a company. You've never started a company. So you've got two people who've never done a thing before trying to figure out how to do it together, right? Which
Yeah.
is which is fun, but like kind of not the best approach.
Yeah.
So I think the
Two
best thing
kids
about
trying to do Lego.
completely the best thing about my journey and my co-founder's journey is we've made thousands of mistakes. We've made every embarrassing, terrible mistake you can imagine building a company. And I think in that journey, we've learned a great deal. And what you should look for, I think, to win is to find people that you want to go on that journey with, to be deeply honest with yourself and to appreciate that this process takes time, right? Even with crypto, everyone promises short-term value tomorrow. I'm not promising that, right? It's not going to happen tomorrow, but if we keep persistently working, I think there's a chance to build something, for the long term.
Absolutely. We are not here in the crypto space to make the quick bucks off of some meme coin. We're here to stay, and I'm sure so is Herman and Somnia Networks. So, quick shout out to all my audiences first. Go check out Herman as well as Somnia Network, as well as, of course, M Squared, all of the amazing things that these guys are making and the amazing projects that are building on Somnia Network. If you're, of course, one of the builders, like Herman mentioned, feel free to text him to know all about the network or how they're funding the amazing projects that they are. Once again, thank you so much, Herman, for joining us today. This has been
Thank
a
you.
rather interesting conversation, and I wish that we could have gone on and spoken about the amazing things that you're building. I would have loved to do that, but time here, I feel, is still lacking. Maybe in the metaverse that you guys built, we'll be
We'll
able
get
to talk for a lot
we'll
longer.
we'll get there. All right. Pleasure to meet you. Talk
Likewise, likewise. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. It was my pleasure to host you, Herman, on Money and Me podcast by the Coin Republic. And we'll be seeing you a lot sooner, and we'll probably be talking about all the amazing things that you're doing.
amazing. Talk soon. See you around.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Bye.